You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I am broadcasting from Nof, Idaho, in an actual free state. Today is Thursday night, March 5th, the year of our Lord 2026, and I am aforementioned host BZ Bravo Zulu, and you're in the saloon. I am this guy. I am your conservative Sherpa, and I'm guiding you through the maelstrom of Democrat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. And please note that what you're about to hear for the next hour, 2 hours, or whenever the heck we get finished and fini, what you're about to hear consists of my opinions and the opinions of my guest only. And boy, do I have a great guest tonight. I am doing the job that the American media maggots won't. I am fundamentally changing America one leftist diaper at a time. Reminding you, of course, that we don't water our drinks, just like we don't water our conversations. We are still serving stiff drinks. In the saloon, along with facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, clarity, context, tradition, and common sense for normal people like you and me. Politics, religion, crime, culture, economics, race, sex, science, law. We talk about it all right here in the saloon, where the speech is free, but the booze is not. I am streaming directly right here, right now, on a whole host of places like this: Spreaker, Apple Podcasts, the SHR Facebook page, KLRN Radio, courtesy of Rowdy Rick Robinson, Twitch, the SHR Media YouTube channel, Rumble, and X. And there's a lot to listen to tonight. It's going to be a superior show in all respects. And as I spoke to my guest for about the past half hour, and I said something similar to, this is one of the shows where I am clearly the student, not the teacher. I may know a few questions to ask, but let me put this up here right now. This is the book that, as my pen falls out, there we go. This is the book that my guest wrote, and it's called Muzzled Truth, and you can see it's wickedly tabbed with all sorts of things that I want to point out. It's not a huge book. It's about 110 pages. Of course, I'm holding it upside down so you can't see the spine. Anyway, there it is. Not a huge book, but there's a massive amount of information in here. And with luck, we can get to the bulk of it tonight. So I have the distinct pleasure of speaking to a first-time guest here in the saloon, an individual who represents a lot of what you were thinking and wondering when you were so allowed to think and wonder, if you were allowed to do so in 2020. Why were we locked down, the entire nation? Why did we lock the entire nation down? For a virus that had about, the last I can recall, about a 98 to 99 percentile survival rate, unless you already were possessed of a whole host of comorbidities, or you were elderly, or both. I'm elderly, I'm fine, and I didn't take the vaccine, by the way. We were told to mask up by the government's highest paid employee in the history of the country, Anthony Fauci, making $417,608, more than about twice what the president makes. And when Fauci, in his own words, stated, because he had to go research this and find it out, he didn't tell you this at the beginning. He said, I don't think masks work. And he didn't really wear them himself. and distancing. I mean, can anyone, maybe my guest tonight, Ronald Owens, will be able to tell me where distancing came from? I can't track down the original source of that, or nobody is going to admit it. And I'm sure you can recall, because somebody made this meme, me, a long time ago, and it's true. It's like, okay, it's acceptable to eat in a restaurant. However, in some restaurants, you couldn't even eat inside, and there was a little tent outside where you had to freeze your butt off or singe your butt off in the summer. And you could only eat inside, but only when you were sitting down. Has anyone ever figured that out? Because otherwise, the evil COVIDs could kill you standing up. Perfect example right here. If you're standing up in this restaurant, the COVIDs are going to kill you dead. If you sit down, they can't reach you. What kind of inanity is that? It made no sense then. It makes no sense now. And so, that having been said, it's time to introduce my guest for the show, Ronald Owens Jr., as we are here to talk about his book, Muzzled Truth, which, again, I have right here. I'll put up a link to Amazon. I'll show you where you can find it and get it. That's where I got my copy, annotated and tabbed out, such as it is. So, Ronald Owens, welcome to the Saloon, sir, and it is great to see you tonight.
Well, it's great to see you, BZ, and I wish I could see all of your audience, but I thank you and I thank them for listening to my California Department of Public Health whistleblower story and my activism, what I'm doing here in California to inform local elected public officials about the dangers of the COVID-19 vaccine.
That's just the beginning. Okay, so you were recommended to me, and I told you this already, by a friend of mine, Lonnie Poindexter. Lonnie's been on my show probably 30 or 40 times. He's been rampant and rife through the show since I started back in 2017. And Lonnie, like I said, is a good friend of mine, and he happens to be a great judge of character, which is why I thought, hey, reach out. Let's find out. Let's talk to this Ronald Owens guy, and let's find out what's happening. And the timing I found was interesting. Because I was searching for somebody who could identify and provide some insight on all the recent updated information, the newest information about the vaccines, attributed deaths, turbo cancers, and the like. Now, I don't know precisely where you're going to go tonight. That's up to you. I have lots of stories about them. Not nearly enough time to even remotely gloss over them much at all, but I didn't have access to experts who witnessed the throttling of truth like you did, which is, in my estimation, why you are so critical and why it's important that the information that you have get out to everybody. So, Ron Owens, let's start at the start if you can. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and where you were raised, sir?
Well, first of all, I have to state that I love the Lord. I've been a Christian since 1967, 1968, when I was 10 or 11 years old. And being a Christian, a lover of Christ, a reader of the Bible, a student of the Bible, and basically living by biblical precepts, that's what guides me. That's what created me to be the man today. I had great parents. My mom, she died on June 13th, 2021. I am the caregiver of my 93-year-old father. And they raised me, my two sisters and brother, to be good people. And my dad was in the Air Force. I was born on a military base. Matter of fact, as you read in Muzzled Truth, I describe in the preface about an incident that happened while I was a newborn baby on a military installation in Japan. So my dad was in the Air Force Band, played French horn, and we lived at Offutt Air Force Base in Nebraska, Ramstein Air Force Base in Germany, Patrick Air Force Base in Florida, Barksdale Air Force Base in Bossier City, Louisiana. My dad retired in 1977, relocated to Sacramento, specifically East Sacramento, Rancho Cordova. And I went to Sac City, went to Sac State, and I began my nearly 30-year career here in Sacramento. And the last 14 years were working as an information officer too, a public information officer at the California Department of Public Health. For those who don't know what a public information officer is, or PIO, it's the staff person who is the liaison between the subject matter experts of the department they work for and the media. So they do a wide variety of duties, but they're charged with conveying information to the public. So that's in essence my biographical history. But I just wanted to share with you, and I wanted to start by stating, as a Christian, we are in a spiritual war.
Agreed.
We are in a spiritual war. It's not partisan, Democrats or Republicans. It's not ideological, conservative or liberal. It's not sectarian, left or right. It's not even religious, Protestant, Catholic, Jewish, etc. This is a spiritual war between light and darkness, between good and evil, between God, Jesus, and the Holy Spirit against Satan, the devil, and his demons, or those who carry out the satanic, devilish, demonic agenda. I believe that the outcome is already decided. God, Jesus, Christ, and the Holy Spirit wins. But during the interim, whether we like it or not, we are in this war as citizens, as victims, certainly as collateral damage, as soldiers in training, or combatants on the battlefield. This is not a conventional war being played out in distant battlefields. It's a non-conventional cyber war that is being played out in the spiritual realm. And I'm reminded of Ephesians 6:10 through 12. For we wrestle not against, finally, my brethren, be strong in the Lord and in the power of his might. Put on the whole armor of God, that ye may be able to stand against the wiles of the devil. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness in high places. And I'm reminded, Ephesians 6:12 in the Geneva Bible, it states, just like the King James Version, for we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, and against the world governors, the princes of the darkness of this world, against spiritual wickedness, which are in high places. It's interesting to note that worldly governors and the princes is omitted in the King James Version translation. So this non-conventional war being played out is also played out in our minds of mainstream media, social media, alternate media. It's an information war. There's information, misinformation, which I define as missing information, and disinformation, which I define as distracting information. So when you started off the program and you mentioned about some of the stuff that we were told about social distancing, 6 feet apart, who made that up? Like, for example, you were told that you're supposed to wear a mask.
I've never been able to discover that. It's just a construct that dropped out of nowhere.
Exactly. I mean, here you're told to wear a mask when you walk into a restaurant, and then as soon as you sit down, you can take off your mask. I mean, does the virus...
It's like one of the things where, can you write this? You can't write this stuff.
No.
It makes zero sense. And yet people went, okay,
Let's go along with it.
sure, no problem.
So yeah, I was thinking about this passage in the book of Revelation, Revelation 18:23, and it states, "And the light of a candle shall shine no more at all in thee, and the voice of the bridegroom and of the bride shall be heard no more at all in thee. For thy merchants were the great men of the earth, for by thy sorceries," and the Greek word for sorcery or witchcraft is pharmakia.
Okay.
"For by thy sorceries," pharmakia or big pharma pushing COVID-19 vaccines, "were all nations deceived." This was all deception.
Well, it's like you and I spoke for about a half hour, 40 minutes or so before the show.
Uh-huh.
And you worked for many years with the California Department of Public Health. I think you said you worked there after 9/11. And one of the first things that I can remember asking myself when it was discovered, I don't know if anybody remembers or even thinks that this is important, but I can distinctly remember in 2020, before Tucker Carlson got stupid and canned from Fox News, he had a Chinese microbiologist on who was very difficult to understand. But she essentially said, well, yes, I very definitely believe that China released COVID-19 upon the planet. When they shuttered themselves, they literally welded some people into their apartments. And yet they seem to have absolutely no problem with letting flights from China be disseminated all around the world, meaning that that's one wonderful way to make sure that COVID-19, what I call Wuhan 19, got spread around the planet. And yet China, to my estimation, seemed to have zero consequences for any of that, to which I posited, hey, I wonder what the hell would have happened had it been, sorry, I'm getting excited. What would have happened had it been the United States that people determined was responsible for unleashing a plague upon the planet? And the answer is, I think, extremely obvious. So what I'd like to do tonight, and I pointed this out to you, is there's so much information here. And I'm overwhelmed. What I'd like to do is see if I could go through the book chapter by chapter. And then as long as your voice lasts and my voice lasts, and or we run out of information, or I run out of questions, or 2 hours expires, whichever comes first, because the book builds perfectly, in my belief, in and of itself. But first I have to tell you, I went right into this. And when I saw this, folks, you're not going to be able to see it, but I'm going to put it, it's the little epigram in the front. So I'm going to put it up on the screen for everybody to see. And that's this, because this resonated with me like crazy.
What does that say?
And you said, it says, document, document, document.
Yes.
Owens Sr.
That's
And
what my dad told me.
To me, in my former profession, law enforcement, as we were wont to say, if it's not on paper, it didn't happen. So I come from a long line of people who wrote everything for every reason. I just found it very intriguing that you went there for something that was the veritable backbone of my profession. So document, document, document. Ronald Owens, what did you, I mean, generically, I know what you meant, but what did you specifically mean by starting the book by that?
Well, working for the state of California, I would come home and I would talk to my dad and say, hey, this happened. And as I indicated, he was in this service, and he said, Ronnie, you should, document. Always make sure that you document what happened. And sometimes I would just have a conversation that I felt like I needed to remember. So I would write what happened and send it. I laugh. Well, I'll go to finish my thought. And I send it to myself. Okay, I want to say something that happened years before COVID at CDPH. I had an argument with the deputy director with how she was treating people. So after that tense exchange where we were talking, and as a black person, particularly as a black man, 6'2", and I'm talking to this white woman and she's very liberal, I had to be careful how I interact with her.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to close the door, but she was really angry and her voice was raised, and it was unsightly for staff to hear us arguing. So I asked very calmly, "Can I close the door?" And she said, "Yes." I got up and I closed the door very gently, and I sat down. I said, "Look, I respect you. You're very good at your job, but you don't know how to treat people." I said it just like that. Okay, the reason why that I laughed before I started telling the story, BZ, is because I went to my desk after I calmed down. I wrote what happened, and I didn't remember how to spell her last name while I was writing. So I remember putting her name in the BCC or the CC, or even I think it was the CC window of my email. And I was just in the throes of writing it all out.
Uh-oh.
And I sent it to my boss, and
Oh.
I accidentally sent it to her too. So not only did I document as my daddy told me, but she saw the document, and I didn't know that I sent it to her until a day later. And she came to my cubicle and she says, "I got the email you sent to the deputy director. Now I know where I stand." And in retrospect, I think, while that was a big faux pas on my part, I think that what happened began to set wheels in the motion for them to actually fire her. Because not only did she have,
Really?
yes, not only did she, and because she was a political appointee. So when you're a political appointee for the state of California, you work at the pleasure of the governor. You're not a civil service employee. So what the devil meant it for evil, God meant it for good. And I remember our boss calling us in the office after, I don't know how much time transpired after I committed my faux pas, but we all came into the boss's office, and she says, "Well, just wanted to announce to you all that I won't say the lady's name, Jane Doe, she's no longer going to be working with us." And all of us were like, we had our head down because nobody wanted to look at one another, but they were all like, "Yeah," you know. But the problem that I had with her, everybody else had with her in the department, and my particular document was used as a vehicle to let her go. But that was a perfect example that I documented what happened, and I accidentally sent it to the person that I was documenting about.
I'm trying to remember the etiquette of the state of California, because at one time my wife worked for the state of California, and those kinds of chiefs, directly as you indicated, serve at the whim, period, end of statement, of whoever the governor happens to be. And I think she mentioned something like they're called 90-day wonders because they can be fired and released and let go in 90 days. They make a great wage,
Mhm.
a public wage, but their half-life can be short. Before you, however, got to where you are now, give me a little bit of a taste of how it is that you ended up working for the state of California. In other words, some of the things that you did for a job that led up to you being where you became the whistleblower. Then I'd like to go into the chapters if we could, please.
Okay. Well, basically, I was fresh out of college in 1986. I majored in government journalism, and I remember selling the Sacramento Union. I don't know if you remember that paper.
Oh, I do.
I sold the Sacramento Union for $5 an hour. Was it $5 an hour? Had to be more than that. This is back in 1986.
As a
And
kid, I threw the bee and I threw the union.
okay, yeah. So I don't remember my hourly wage, but we would also get commission when we made a sale or whatever. And so I did that, but I was underemployed. And my old journalism teacher, Shirley Biaggi, I don't mind mentioning her name, her husband was Dick Biondi. He was the executive director of the California Broadcasters Association.
Oh, okay.
So either both of them told the California Newspaper Publishers Association about me looking for a job. And so I remember, and back then we didn't have cell phones, okay? So timing was impeccable. I rather than waiting for CNPA, the California Newspaper Publishers Association, waiting for me to reach out to me, I walked in the office, and as soon as I walked in the office, who would be my boss happened to walk out of her office, and we almost ran into each other. And things could have occurred where I could have been screened. You know how you walk in and can I please speak to Jane Doe? And so Jane Doe walks into Jane Doe's office. You got a person who's looking for a job. Oh, tell him, that could have happened, but that didn't happen this time. And so just the timing of it. And I got the job working at the California Newspaper Publishers Association, 1987. And basically going to Sac State, I didn't know anything when I graduated.
I went to Sac State.
When were you there?
I graduated in 68.
Okay. Well, I was a kid then. Yeah, so I was there between 84 and 86.
I was back. I was around when they invented the wheel. The wheel had been invented. It was squared off, but I rounded the corners. That's how old some people say I am.
Okay. Well, yeah, so I didn't really know much at all, but I learned a lot about my profession working at CNPA between 1987 to 1992. I was what you call the publications editor. My job was to put together the monthly newspaper for the publishers of this state, California Publisher. I was an editor, produced 53 publications. Wow. I mean, I had to come up with story ideas. I had to write the story, interview the person, write the story. I had columnists that would send me stuff. I would have to take pictures. Desktop publishing was introduced in the workplace. And so I learned on PageMaker 3.0 or whatever.
PageMaker, yes.
Remember PageMaker? Yeah. And so I basically learned how to put together a newspaper from inception all the way to the runs off the press. And I did that for 5 years. It was a hard job, but that was my college education, working at CNPA. The way that I was let go wasn't fair. And at that time, I was about ready to propose to a lady, and she kicked me to the curb at the same time. But for 3 hours there, BZ, I was suicidal. I lost my job in 1992. The woman that I was in love with, she, kicked me to the curb. And I'm sitting in the garage contemplating my demise. I'm thinking, you know what? I ain't going to let this guy or this woman drive me to commit suicide. I don't know if I'm going to end up in heaven or hell. And I didn't want to take that chance. So I picked myself up and I was able to get a job at the Office of Emergency Services as a temporary employee, a temporary public information officer gig in the aftermath of the Rodney King riots of 1992. You probably remember that.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Yeah, they had a disaster field office in Pasadena. So that was my introduction and my step in the door working for the state. After that, I got a job working at University of the Pacific in Stockton in their university relations office. I applied to work for the state in 93, 94. Got hired as a public participation specialist for the state equivalent of the EPA, which is the Department of Toxic Substances Control. And I worked there for about between 1994 to 98, 4 years. I got my first permanent public information officer job at DMV. Worked there for several years, worked for the California community colleges, and this would resonate with you. There were two promotional positions, one the California Department of Public Health, the other the California Highway Patrol. I wanted the California Highway Patrol gig. I wanted to work for Commander Fran Clater. I don't know if that name.
I just know the commissioners, not the.
Not. Yeah, well, she was a commander underneath the commissioner. It would have been great to work in that office. The cool cars, the motorcycles. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
but
yeah.
But God wanted me at CDPH. Matter of fact, CHP, they turned me down. They hired somebody. And CDPH, they hired me, and I started on March 2nd, 2009. Didn't know what would happen after working there. I'm sorry, you had a question?
That's okay. This is the point that I say, but wait, there's more. Because I'm speaking to Ronald F. Owens. He's the author of this book that we're speaking about tonight. We're going to take a break. Ronald F. Owens Jr., Muzzled Truth. That is Ron right over. Gee, I can't. I always have to point. I can't remember how to point backwards because it's backwards through the camera. Anyway, that's Ron over there. We're going to take a break, and Ron will be right back after this.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Listen in to the Reaver of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a show equipped for bombast. Tune in Mondays and Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, and 6 p.m. Pacific, featuring a refreshing dose of reality. Jersey Joe fearlessly tackles the tough topics with no nonsense. Just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com, where you can hear the Reaver of Common Sense in action. He may not always be polite. He may not always be refined. But one thing's for sure. He always tells it like it is.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out 7 Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with 7 Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com. 7armors.com. Faithful, vigilant, steadfast, passion.
Are you looking for bold and honest conversation about the issues shaping America? Well, let me welcome you to Unleashed 101 with Jeremy Hansen, where we take you beyond the headlines. We dive into politics and culture, struggles of everyday life. It's raw, real, and unfiltered. If you're ready for truth with a punch, pull up a chair and join us. That's right, Unleashed 101, where real talk feels like home. Find us at unleashed101.com, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and more. We look forward to seeing you. Unleashed 101 with Jeremy Hansen.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Folks, thanks for being here tonight. I am BZ, he of the Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, to which you are listening and watching right now. Thanks to all tonight for watching. And my guest tonight is Ronald F. Owens, as you can see here very plainly at the top, and as I illustrate here. He's the author of this book, Muzzled Truth. And essentially it's about, hey, he was in a position of power and knowledge in terms of the state of California. And then the California Department of Public Health rejected basically COVID-19 treatments and vaccine health risk warnings when in fact they were told. Now that really shouldn't shock anybody because we have essentially intuited all of that already, have we not? Otherwise, you likely wouldn't even be listening to the show right now. And as I said in the first half hour, I really have been wanting to get in touch with somebody from the inside who knew what was happening during 2020 and those environs right around in there. And that's why I have Ronald F. Owens on. Before I bring him, well, let's bring Ronald back right now, as a matter of fact. But I want to make this, I want to show this. This is where you can find Ron on X. He's there at Muzzled Truth 1, at Muzzled Truth 1. And if you're watching in portrait mode, you can see that this is really tiny, which is why I will mention again that you can find him on X at Muzzled Truth 1. Plus, he has a website where you can go discover more information about the book. It tells you about him. It shows a host of documents that you can go into and just search through yourself. There's a bunch of media stuff in there. He has his own Rumble channel, and then it shows how you can contact him if you want to. And then later on, well, I may as well do it right now. If you want to buy the book, go here. This is where I got my copy on Amazon, but you can get it probably at Barnes & Noble, and there's probably a couple of the places where you can get it that I just can't think of right now. Anyway, it's there. It's available. You can go buy it if you want. So anyway, having said that, Ronald F. Owens Jr., there are a bunch of chapters in your book. There's 10 of them. And what I'd like you to do now is I'll just mention the chapter and whatnot, and perhaps you can tell us why whatever is in the chapter is important, why it's significant, and what happened. Because, folks, if you haven't gleaned this yet, Ronald F. Owens right here is a whistleblower. He discovered things that were going on, and he's still talking about it today, which is essentially how we're going to wrap up the show, because he is still active today. If you think Ron just decided, well, I'll write a book, and then I'll lay back on my laurels and let the millions roll in. Well, no, he's still very active in making sure that the information is released and gotten out, which is why he's here tonight. So, Ron Owens, if you would, the first chapter is called Clingerman Foundation Lesson. What is that about?
Okay, before I answer that great question, I like to step back to September 11th, 2021.
Okay.
A friend asked me to go to a prayer meeting overlooking Nimbus Dam. And this was 3 months after my 89-year-old mother died. And I remember going to that prayer meeting that day, and I was praying for our nation, praying for our state. We're just praying because it was the anniversary of 9/11. And there's a guy named Ron. It just happened to have my first name. He observed me praising and worshiping the Lord. And he came over to me and he said that the Lord told him some things about me. The guy didn't even know me.
About you.
He told me some things about me prophetically. So I asked if I could record what he said, and he said, fine. And he said, the Lord kept showing me while I was sitting there and kept letting me know that you are his warrior, but not just a grunt warrior, but you're like a 5-star general. And everywhere your foot touches the ground, you are piled driving the kingdom of heaven into the soil so powerfully that the devil and all of the enemy camp hears you coming, and they cannot stand to be anywhere near you. They know that you do not accept or believe their lies, and that you are in danger to their camp. And basically, what Ron prophesied was God giving me a heads up that I was going to be observing some things that I observed, and that I wasn't going to accept or believe their lies. And Ron further basically noted in this prophetic word that I was going to be writing. This is what he said, that I was going to be chronicling, documenting, writing about what I was about to see. And the manifestation of that prophecy is Muzzled Truth. So I just wanted to share that with you before answering your question about the Clingerman Foundation. All right, so remember I noted that I work at the Department of Toxic Substance Control between 1994 and 1998. Well, when I got at DMV, I received an email from my former boss from DTSC indicating that if you receive in a mail an envelope and the sender is from the Clingerman Foundation, don't open up the envelope because it could be laced with some sort of pathogen and you can get sick or die. So since it came from a credible source, my former boss, I believed it. And so I sent it to 11 DMV employees, so I sent it to the 11 employees, and one of them was my sister who works for another department. She did some research and learned that this particular Clingerman Foundation email was a hoax. So I quickly retracted. I sent an email to those 11 DMV employees, sent a retraction, say, hey, look, I've been had, this is a hoax. Disregard what I sent you. Well, the next week, BZ was 9/11. And so those 11 employees sent that email to people who sent it to more people, because it was 9/11, that hoax was believable. And since my name, Ron Owens, DMV Public Information Officer, my email address, my phone number was in the signature block, it just made it credible. And just the timing of that email was such that it just made it believable that everybody who saw it. So, man, it was a very traumatic period in all of our lives because we watched what happened. And for this other incident to occur, and I was responsible for it, I just literally had this knot in the pit of my stomach. It was a very, very stressful period because of what we saw, and because I heaped on this particular incident something that if I had have just exercised my critical thinking, did some checking, I would have determined that this was a hoax. I had have just exercised my critical.
Go ahead.
So yeah, so basically, I was honest with my boss, honest with the chief deputy director at DMV, sat down with him and the director, and I said, man, look, I blew it. I'm embarrassed, you know. But they were very sympathetic, and we had to craft a holding statement and start sending that out once I got emails and stuff. They changed my email address, shut down my old email, changed the character. And that was just like a hard lesson learned, that even though I received something from a credible source, who happened to be my former boss, I needed to check it out. And that hard lesson learned. And on September 11th, 2020, 2001, 20 some odd years later, that lesson bode well for me to question the information that I was receiving from one of the deputy directors. And that particular, going back to that prophecy where God was giving me a heads up that I was going to be essentially observing some things and not believing the lie. A month later, I was the recipient of an email, and people can go to muzzledtruth.com website and read the email that I sent way back in October of 2021. Basically, the deputy director was sending an email to my bosses and to me, because I work with the Center for Environmental Health. They're going to put on the website that ivermectin is dangerous, stay away from it. They're going to put that on the website to share with Californians. I knew, BZ, that was untrue. I had heard from subject matter experts that properly dosed ivermectin can treat and cure COVID. So I had a choice of doing something or just remaining silent. And I thought that if I had to remain silent, I would have taken the cowardly way out. So I did some research. I learned that Wisconsin Senator Ron Johnson in December of 2020 featured Dr. Pierre Corey, and Dr. Pierre Corey said, look, I treated more than 8,000 people with properly dosed ivermectin, and I treated them and they didn't have COVID. So I had this great information that I shared with my management senior leadership as well, including the director and the assistant director of the California Department of Public Health, that properly dosed ivermectin can cure COVID. But they said, look, their response was, number one, don't include senior leadership in your emails. And the reason why that I did, BZ, was because not only was I the recipient of that email from the deputy director, but so were they. And all I did was reply all. The other thing they said is that CDPH is not in a position to approve this treatment. That's basically the province of the FDA, the Food and Drug Administration. And I'm thinking, we have this emergency situation here in California. Why are we punting the ball to another federal agency 3,000 miles away? But that's what they had decided to do. So anyway, I know I jumped ahead from your Clingerman Foundation question, and I jumped ahead other chapters of Muzzled Truth. But yeah, I just wanted to kind of circle back to what Ron told me during our prayer meeting in September of 2021, and a month later, that the manifestation of that prophecy began to materialize, and me questioning the deputy director was related to me accepting the Clingerman Foundation hoax from my former boss at that former job.
Can I say something similar to, well, hey, that was a lesson in you really can't trust government?
Yeah.
With regard to the email. Isn't that one conclusion that one could draw?
Yeah. And, you know, being a critical thinker, I was raised that way by my parents. And remembering what Ronald Reagan says about government, even though I work in the liberal area, I had a natural suspicion of the agenda of government to begin with. And I saw some contradictions when I was at CDPH, where they were pushing unhealthy lifestyles. They weren't weighing in on many questions throughout the years that we got from the media, whether tattoos are healthy. They were pushing needle exchange programs. They were pushing programs where it's unhealthy. People can get sexually transmitted diseases and sexually transmitted infections because of unhealthy, promiscuous lifestyles, not only heterosexuality, but homosexuality. So I saw all these contradictions, and I just felt like CDPH wasn't about public health. It was about political health. So when COVID came, it just didn't pass the smell test to me, as we noted about the 6 feet social distancing, putting something on people's face and they can't breathe. I am not a doctor, but I have common sense. You put a mask on somebody and it's 100 plus degrees in Sacramento, that's not healthy.
No. The other thing that I'm sure you used to adore and love yourself was the fact that people would wear masks in a car. I saw a person wearing a mask in a car, and it was a convertible. It's like, Ron, can you write this stuff? And the immediate answer is, no, you can't. But in for a penny, in for a pound. Chapter 2, questioned flu shots and childhood vaccines. What was it about flu shots that were questioned and or childhood vaccines? What does that relate to?
Well, again, I'm not a doctor, but I have common sense. I just could not. Why would somebody take a shot that has a little bit of the flu to fight the flu? That just never made sense to me. And so I remember a deputy director, not the one that I dealt with. Actually, he was assistant deputy director, and he was long gone before COVID came. And I don't know how the subject came up in the elevator, but I remember getting on the floor with him, and he asked, well, did you get your flu shot? And really, as I think about it, that's not a question you should ask anybody, because that's not none of anybody's business. But I think I answered no. And he says, well, you need to get your flu shot because your grandmother, at that time, my grandmother was living, and she died at 106 years old. My parents, who were in their 70s at that time, they wouldn't want me to take the flu shot to protect them because they didn't believe in the safety and more the efficacy of the flu shot as well. So I questioned the flu shot narrative. Never took a flu shot. Never did. It just taking the flu to fight the flu just never made sense to me. Another thing that I learned, I became a Facebook friend with a woman and her husband. They live in North Carolina, and they were telling me about some of the shots that they administered to their son, who was in great health, alert, had a great personality, but as soon as he started to receive some of these shots, he became autistic. That really educated me, because up to that point, I was ambivalent but slightly opposed to vaccines. But after learning what Luke went through and what his mom and his dad are going through, and Luke's sister and the other family members, it's just, it caused me to change my mind. If I can digress a minute, I have a family member who has a 14-month-old daughter. And this family member shared with me Yesterday and the day before, we talked twice the last couple of days. He wanted to take his daughter to a pediatrician just for an annual checkup. The scheduler told him, before the pediatrician sees your daughter, you have to give her 10 shots. 10 shots. And so I asked, my family member, I'll keep his name confidential. I said, what did you say? He said, no, I'm not going to give. Are you kidding me? No, I'm not going to give her 10 shots.
On what planet would that make any sense at all?
Exactly. And I got another horrific story. There's a woman that you might want to interview if you haven't interviewed already. Her name is Michelle Spencer, very brave nurse. She is suing her hospital in Fresno, California, and I'm one of 3 former California Department of Public Health expert witnesses in that lawsuit. She was on an X space last week saying that there have been many children that are born dead because of the COVID, because their mom took the vaccine. And some babies are born but are disfigured, like the toes or fingers. And in this one sad case, BZ, it's really sad. This child was born premature. The intestines were outside of the body. The child is going to die. And the doctor or the nurse or whoever said, we need to vaccinate this child. While the child is dying from COVID-19 vaccine, they wanted to vaccinate probably with hepatitis B. Can you believe that? That's just so...
It's as if I weren't the doubting Thomas that I'm famed for, it's as if some personnel decide that they're going to go out of their way to be stupid and or dangerous.
Mhm.
It's like people referred to, trust in the science, trust in the medicine. In my estimation, the medicine and the science went out of their way to make sure that they were in fact untrustworthy. They worked long and hard to make sure that they were untrustworthy.
Well, yeah, and I talk about in my book, I remember off hours after work, I went to a rally at the I don't think it was the West Steps. It was the North Steps of the Capitol. Yeah, North Steps of the Capitol. And I was off work, and I remember walking down to 9th and L, and I got really close, listened to the speakers, watched some of the vaccine-injured children in wheelchairs, and my heart went out to them. And throughout the years working at CDPH, those particular moms and dads who were demonized as vaccine hesitant, and they were just dismissed. They were viewed as a public relations problem. They weren't treated with any respect. They followed the science. They did what the CDPH advised, and then their kids got hurt. And would CDPH listen to them? No. So yeah, these interactions that I've had with the vaccine injured now on a daily basis, because I am tuned in to the End All Tyranny space that's on the X. The conversations that I've had with my friend and her husband there in North Carolina about their son. The incident that I just shared regarding Michelle Spencer. The incident that I shared regarding a family member where they want to give a 14-month-old baby 10 shots. That's going to kill that child.
That's just insanity.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, folks, we're talking to Ron Owens. I'm BZ. He has written this book, which I will display. Muzzled Truth, and you can get a copy for yourself. It's thin. It's meant, as Ron said before the show, it's meant to be digested in one sitting. And I've tabbed it out to ask a whole bunch of questions here tonight. Ron will be back with me right after this. Folks, time to go to the electric winkle chamber or get a drink or something like that. We'll be right back.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Mission log. Intrigue. I mean, let's face it, who's even counting anymore? The Lost Wanderer is officially off course, chasing rogue rocket launches, fringe science, and things that probably violate causality. If it burns fuel, bends time, or makes scientists very uncomfortable, yeah, I'm probably going to talk about it. Every other Sunday on KLRN Radio, The Lost Wanderer, because space doesn't come with a roadmap, and honestly, I wouldn't follow if it did.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here's Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism, so common today, is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Hey fellas, are you mission ready? You need to check out Mission Ready Men via Earl Big E Jackson on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and noon Eastern. It's a show that equips you to navigate our society's challenges from a biblical perspective with courage and conviction. Tune into Mission Ready Men as we examine our culture through the prism of biblical truths, teachings, and how to apply them in our daily lives. Prepare to step up, stand out, and step into your role as a man as ordained by God. That's Mission Ready Men, hosted by Earl Jackson on the SHR Media Network. And get mission ready.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life, the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. You can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Folks, I'm BZ, 1 hour done. Thanks for being here tonight. I appreciato. I be appreciato dito of your presence as you have deigned to sup upon my digital trough of all the goodness that I portray for you here tonight on this great Thursday night. It is March the 5th, the year of our Lord 2026. And please, as I've mentioned before, if you would subscribe to the SHR Media YouTube channel. And what the heck, while you're at it, go to my Rumble channel, BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon. Subscribe there. Give us all a thumbs up. Give us a subscription. Click the bell so that you get notified when our various shows emerge. And of course, make sure that you, if you would, follow and like our shows, because personally, each subscription gets me, as I've said on any number of occasions, each subscription gets me an arboreal animal of my choice, occasionally a porcelain Dalmatian, more cat food. I'm very specific about the varieties. You could get me a timing chain from a 1979 Peterbilt 359. You could get me, blinker fluid, but as winter leaves, that's not so important anymore. And of course, you can always get me more vodka. Anyway, having said that, my guest tonight is Ronald F. Owens. Here he is in all of his well, Ronald, thank you very kindly for being here tonight. I appreciate that. We're going through your book, and I'm basically going through it chapter by chapter. The next one to my mind is Luke's story. Luke had a story, and if you would, could you regale to us that tale about Luke's story?
Well, I put myself, after interviewing Luke's parents, I put myself in his shoes and tell his story, that I was once a healthy child, but they needled me, and I changed. I became different. My head hurt. I was more emotional. I can't control myself. So it's basically, I put myself in his shoes, and I had the experience already writing 5 Bible-based books, where I put myself in the sandals of various Bible characters, whether it be the 26 people in my Spectators of Jesus the Christ book, 17 men and 9 women. I pretend as if I'm Noah, and I'm describing what happened before the flood, and how I constructed the ark, and how the animals came to me. I pretend as if I'm Jewish, and I'm explaining why I betrayed Jesus, how I betrayed him, and the consequences of me betraying him. So having had those experiences, putting myself in various Bible characters and telling their story, it gave me the literary creation to write Luke's story, as if I'm Luke. And when I finished writing that particular chapter, quite naturally, I sent the draft to his parents, and they approved it. They consented that I would tell his story, and was honored that I was able to amplify his message to other people, and it would resonate with other vaccine injured parents and siblings and other family members. So that's what Luke's story is about.
So that's I would guess one of a series of reasons why it's like each story, each incident, each encounter, each thing that you discover on your own personal level leads you to believe that this is some crazy stuff, and perhaps it's time to get this out. Chapter 4 says, questioned COVID-19 health policies. Well, there were clearly health policies, and what was it that you were beginning to question at that point, Ronald Owens?
Oh man, God, the face mask. I remember it was getting hot in Sacramento, and I remember walking to my assistant deputy director's office, and I says, "Don't you think?" Well, in my understanding of viruses, they don't survive in hot weather. So don't you think we should kind of like explain to people that it may not be a good idea to wear a mask when it's 100 degrees in Sacramento or elsewhere? And I remember him barking at me, and I didn't take it personal. He was under the gun. He was under pressure. I just think he just didn't want for me to suggest something that went against the CDPH or Governor Newsom's policies. So everybody was walking around the 7th floor of the 16th and Capitol building wearing masks. I never put on a mask. I never put on those blue masks, those paper masks.
And you never caught crap for that?
I never. Oh, I did. Yeah. Well, let me say that I didn't get any quote crap, close quote. But I remember walking around the 7th floor, waving at people, smiling.
How dare you be positive?
I know. And I remember, matter of fact, I remember walking one of the deputy director's office, and I knocked on the door, and she says, please stay there or put a mask on. I remember the deputy director knocked on the front door of our suite, and I went to open it, and she says, back up, sir.
You rogue! You
Yeah,
brigand! Back up!
exactly. So basically, I used to walk a lot. I'm walking 5 miles a day now, but I would walk a couple of miles. And I remember walking toward the front of my building, and this guy was carrying a couple of computer boxes, laptop computer boxes, and we were kind of like walking, next to each other. He had a mask on. I didn't have a mask on.
My God, I think I see what's coming.
So we walked up, and I said, "Oh, you got two computers there?" He said, "Yeah, And so we rode up the elevator, and I thought he was going to the director's office, but he went into my suite. And so I opened up the door for him. He walked in, and he said something to the secretary who was working at home, but since an arrangement had been made for her to be there to receive those computers. And so basically, the guy said, well, these computers are for Matt. Well, I probably shouldn't have said his name, sorry. John Doe and Ron. And I'm still thinking, Ron, is there another Ron in my office?
It can't be me.
It can't be me. But it was me. And so I don't know what's the backstory, BZ, who decided and when and why that they were going to voluntold me to start working at home because I didn't wear a mask. I didn't put a mask on.
And so you needed the equipment. Message received.
Exactly. Now things worked out well because my mom was dying at that time.
Yeah.
And I was able to work at home and attend to her. So again, their intention was for me to not work in the building because I wasn't going to put on a mask. I think that was, unless the decision was they're going to send everybody home, that could have been it as well. I got to be fair. But I think that me walking around, never putting on a mask, I never put on a blue mask. Now, I did have a plastic shield. I begrudgingly got a plastic shield because my mom, as I indicated, she was dying. And she says, Ronnie, what if I'm in the hospital and I need you? Can you at least get a plastic shield? I said, okay. So I did wear a plastic shield when I had to take her to the commissary, when I had to take her to places. And I don't remember wearing the mask the shield more than 5 or 6 times. But I never wanted to feel what it felt like to have that mask pressed against my nose, pressed against my lips, having that string wrap around the back of my ear, because throughout my life, BZ, if I don't have my glasses properly adjusted, I could have a sore in behind my ear. Those strings, that must hurt really after, a long period of time. So yeah, I question the mask policy.
Well, the other thing that we're coming to now is Chapter 5. And Chapter 5 is called My Ivermectin Email. And here are things that I have questions for, and perhaps you'll address them in due time as we go through the various chapters. But I always wondered, okay, if people are thinking that ivermectin could help, and certainly it was said that ivermectin is a heck of a lot cheaper than what Fauci was pushing, remdesivir, at $5,000 the kick. A friend of mine, his wife, acquired Wuhan 19, and the doctors were absolutely insistent that she be a recipient of remdesivir. A friend had heard terrible things about that, and he said, if you give her remdesivir, and I discover that against her will, you have not, and you soon will discover what hell will be raining down upon you. Because at the time, remdesivir, and also later, remdesivir was found to be an actionable vaccine or application that ended up killing people. So my questions are ivermectin, and you're going to get to that very soon, my ivermectin email. And then what a lot of people were told, don't even think about it. Hydroxychloroquine. You cannot say the H word. You couldn't say the I word, and you couldn't say the H word. One of the biggest reasons I believe that you could not is that these were cheap and plentiful.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps, Ronald Owens Jr., could you tell us about Chapter 5, my ivermectin email? What happened there?
Well, basically, as I indicated earlier, I was the recipient of an email from the Deputy Director for the Center for Environmental Health. My portfolio was to work with this Deputy Director, his Assistant Deputy Director, and their staff. So he's going to put on the CDPH website that ivermectin is dangerous, stay away from it, and he wanted us to approve that communication statement that was going to be posted on CDPH's website. And as I indicated earlier, I could have not said anything, but it would have been cowardly for me just to be quiet. I heard through some of these doctors who were censored, deplatformed, they lost their licenses. They're saying ivermectin is effective, as well as hydroxychloroquine. Hard word for me to say. But I didn't do my research on that. I did find information on from Senator Ron Johnson. He's a Wisconsin senator. He held a hearing in December of 2020, and Dr. Pierre Corey said, "Look, I have treated people with properly dosed ivermectin. I've treated more than 8,000 people," he said. And you know what else he said? This is going to really make you mad. I'm giving you a heads up, okay? Dr. Corey said that he knows of members of Congress and their staff and their family. They were taking properly dosed ivermectin, but they were publicly bad-mouthing it. Can you believe that?
Today, then not so much today. Yes.
It's just like, so these people, they were bad-mouthing ivermectin publicly, but yet they're taking it for themselves and their family and their friends and their co-workers. They've got blood on their hands. I'm just saying, they've got blood on their hands.
I don't disagree.
Anyway, so the response from my management after doing the research and sending them this information, which included the director of the California Department of Public Health, the assistant director, was number one, next time you have questions regarding COVID-19 policy, go through your chain of command. Okay, all right, I'll do that. But most importantly, they said, you're not a doctor. I didn't pretend to be a doctor.
No.
But I can read, I can reason, I can research. And it wasn't left up to me to be the final arbiter. It's left up to them to use the information and to send it to those doctors, those subject matter experts in the department. But their response was, we don't approve ivermectin. That's not our job. That's up to the Food and Drug Administration. So let's just punt the ball 3,000 miles away to federal agency.
Well, there's some people in chat, and you can't see chat, I know that, but there are some folks in chat that are saying that they had very difficult times with people that passed away. Some elderly folks, some people that, as I mentioned earlier, had comorbidities, and they couldn't get anywhere near them. They couldn't get close to them. I can distinctly remember a photograph that I saw on social media during the time 2020, 2021, right around there, of a family gathered outside a window of a brick building, looking inside as their grandfather, their grandmother was either passing or had passed. And that was as close as they could get to their loved ones. It's
heartbreaking.
It is. It's very
heartbreaking. Yeah, I was very fortunate that when my mom died, she died at home in her and my dad's bed. She's holding my dad's right hand, and I'm holding her left hand, and that's how she died. I was very blessed to have experienced her passing. Quite naturally, she was with me when I was born, and I was with her when she died. And for loved ones to be denied that is just...
in a vapid, sterile atmosphere where the people whose jobs are, their jobs are to take care of you, but truly, they don't give a crap whether you live or whether you die. They're there to minister whatever drugs or do whatever it is that they are told.
Yeah,
and that is one of a number of reasons why I say that people went on and that the medicine and the science went actively seeking. They went actively out of their way to make sure that we couldn't trust them anymore. How could we?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. I know that I'm working at least 5 miles a day, but I have aches and pains, as we all do as we get older. And do I want to go to the hospital to have that self checked out? No, I don't. Should I? Probably yes. Would I? If it wasn't for COVID, I probably would have. But I don't want to send them a stool sample. My thing is, if there's nothing broke, why fix it? I don't want to go there to have them check out the aches and pains that I have. I don't trust them. And that's the downside of what's happened in COVID. Not only have our state Department of Health or the county officials have proven themselves to be distrustful, but so are the hospitals and the hospital systems and the doctors and the nurses. I've heard of stories. My God, that movie Vaxxed 3 that's put out by the Children's Health Defense, there's so many outrageous things that I saw in that documentary that came out a year or two ago. One of them was this guy was so thirsty. He was being denied water. He pulled out the stuff from his body, climbed from the bed, crawled on the floor, crawled to the commode, to the toilet to get some water.
And those were the times through which we had to live.
Yeah.
Plus the other thing, you know what? I was going to go somewhere, and it's not about your book, and it's
That's
not,
all right.
It's
That's all
not
right.
about me.
Uh-huh.
I find it extremely. I don't know. I'm over the emotion now, but if you remember, Cuomo, governor of New York, his order where he placed hot Wuhan 19 patients into nursing homes. Well, he wasn't the only one that did it. Phil Murphy did it and Newsom did it, but not after Cuomo decided to make that pivotal step. And so he took hot Wuhan 19 patients, inserted it into nursing facilities who have, as we all know, because my dad went into them 5 times. My dad, luckily, he got out of one, but my grandmother passed in one. My grandfather passed in one. So I'm very familiar with what they're like. They have some of the world's worst staff, poorly trained, underpaid, crap for equipment. If there is a doctor on site 1 or 2 days of the week, that's a massive bonus. They don't have any of the requisite needs to deal with something as pernicious as Wuhan 19. Plus, they're nothing but repositories of the very weakest of all of us in the nation. And so it was beyond despicable that you would have an individual consider putting people with a virus into a situation where there was no help, no one could do anything, and the people inhabiting these facilities were the least possibly equipped to deal with this virus. I called Cuomo, he's nothing but a murderer.
Yeah.
He murdered with intent. 187 PC of the California Penal Code says that you have murder if you have malice aforethought. How could you not have malice aforethought as Cuomo when you knew the parameters of the virus and you decided still that you're going to put them into nursing facilities? So many stupid things occurred then, Ron.
And evil. Evil. Yeah, just got to call it out. It was evil. It was evil to deny loved ones like you. That's just plain evil.
There's a gentleman in chat named Sean Streich, and he makes a very good point in chat. Just came up. Don't forget, BZ, Cuomo also took all the New York City prisoners with the Wuhan 19 and sent them to all prisons around the state. And he says, yes, I agree. It was intentional.
Wow. I know of a young man who served his time. And he told me after I got to know him that he was presented with an option while he was in prison. Either take the vaccine, or if you don't, we'll move you with other inmates who don't take the vaccines. I understand when you are in prison and you find a place where you're with your homies, you don't want to be put in another situation where you don't know the other guys, and the other inmates could be Mexican gangs, black gangs, white gangs, and the only thing that's common is you didn't take the vaccine. So he told me that he reluctantly took the vaccine. 2-3 months ago, BZ, I received word that he had a stroke. And I suspect it's because of the vaccine he took a couple of years ago.
And Ron Owens, I want to go to some of the other chapters here because we only have about 2 minutes before.
Time is going by fast, isn't it?
Yeah, it is, just as I indicated it would. But the thing that I find particularly frustrating is that we were not learning the lessons that we were meant to learn at the time. And I can remember nurses and the coverage of hospitals and nursing staffs was such that they're working 24/7, they're burning out. And yet I can distinctly remember that in hospitals around where I was at the time, a lot of the people were not busy, and the thing that I find, and I'm going to make this final comment, then we're going to go to a break. The thing that I find particularly galling and distressing is the fact that no one was interested in keeping any true stats or doing what you say, document of the people that died. Who took the vax? No one was curious. No one wanted to know. No one wanted to make that association. No one wanted to make that linkage. And the linkage was there to be made if you were smart enough to do it, which told me that all of that was done with intent. We don't want to know. It's poor form to inquire because you're dealing with people that are dead. Let the dead rest. So we intentionally didn't find out. There was so much information we could have gleaned from that, but intentionally decided that we were not going to. We had lessons to learn, and we decided with intent that, well, we're not going to do that. We're not going to create the stats, the repository to make sure that this stuff didn't happen again. So anyway, I'm BZ. That's Ron Owens. We're going to take a break and be back for the final half hour. Folks, thanks for watching.
Conservative media. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
In a world where leftists are running out of metal for the safety pins of their soothing red diapers, one man stands alone, attempting to fundamentally change America, one leftist diaper at a time. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, is guiding you through the maelstrom of Democrat leftists and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Listen to BZ Saloon on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Central, and 11 p.m. Eastern on the SHR Media YouTube channel, Twitch, KLRN, Rumble, and X at BZ Saloon. It's one great late-night conservatarian talk radio show. Be there. Aloha.
Hello, friends. You have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name is Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
It's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Just like the Bidens, I too am moving. Only in my case, it's days and times. That's right, you can now find the Edge of Liberty Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern, and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific on 11 Eastern on the SHR Media Network. Join me as we talk politics, news, alcohol, fun, not so much fun, clowns, small kittens, large kittens, dogs, amoebas, and anything else that just pops into my mind while I'm on the air. That is Monday and Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast, on YouTube, X, KLRN Radio, Facebook, Twitch, and anywhere else a good podcast is found. Please check out our website, shrmedia.com. I will see you live on the air.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high-quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being, and in the good that comes from exercising these rights well. The founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Folks, I'm BZ. I'm back. I'm nationwide. I'm here with a great individual, and we're talking about his book tonight, Ronald F. Owens Jr., Muzzled Truth. He's a whistleblower about COVID-19. The subheader of his book is How the California Department of Public Health Rejected COVID-19 Treatment and Vaccine Health Risk Warnings. And Ron Owens, I should tell you that in the chat, I'm going up here to look at that right now, there are a lot of very kind compliments
Oh.
about you. One commenter said, the gentleman speaking is very articulate, doing a great job, very well-spoken man. I'm going to look into him. Another one says, well-spoken gentleman, Ron Owens. Sean Stroich mentioned it was a huge red flag when you shut down all dissenting information.
Mm-hmm.
You're a calm, rational man. Another person said, great guest, BZ. So people appreciate your being here tonight. And let us continue, if we may. In Chapter 7, COVID-19 vaccines are killing people.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you had an inkling as to that happening, but there were some things I'm sure that came to your mind where you said, wait a minute, this is almost beyond human ken. What is happening here in the state of California?
Well, on April 14th, 2022, coming up a four-year anniversary next month, Department of Health and Human Services Secretary Javier Becerra was on a Convening on Equity White House virtual summit. And he's talking about the COVID-19 vaccines. And he said, quote, we know that vaccines are killing people of color, Black, Latinos, Indigenous people at about 2 times the rate of white Americans. I learned that. I couldn't believe it. I was actually on Telegram. That's a social media app in which I go there just to kind of pick up information. I don't know what Telegram channel had that particular quote. I played it over and over and over again. I couldn't believe it. And so I said, I got to alert my management about this. So I did some research. I could not find that the vaccines are killing people of color more than white people, but I found that they were killing people, period. And that's the point. I don't care what color you are. I mean, I love all humanity. I'm a Christian. You know, Jesus commands us to love one another. He didn't command us to like one another, but he did command us to love one another. So basically, on April 18th, 2022, I emailed my deputy director, I copied my media team supervisor, and in that email, I informed them what Becerra said. I indicated that more than 1.25 million reports were filed with VAERS, the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting System. And basically, in VAERS, I indicated that there were 26,976 COVID-19 vaccine deaths. I shared that also VAERS show that COVID-19 vaccine, people had allergic reactions, facial paralysis, miscarriages, heart attacks, heart inflammations, seizures, strokes, and sudden deaths. And I said, you know what? You need to alert the California Health and Human Services Agency, alert, quite naturally, the director, and also inform Governor Newsom and his staff. Okay, so I sent that email at 11:58 a.m. on Monday, April 18th, 2022. And if people go to muzzledtruth.com, they can find that particular email and the response. The response at 2:41 p.m. that same day was, quote, thanks for your email, Ron. That's it. That was it. My deputy director seemed unalarmed. She didn't seem to think that it was, I don't know what she thought. And, you know, to this day, I don't know if she did alert her higher ups, or did she just figuratively put my email in a round file? I don't know. I was frustrated. I was angry, exasperated, disgusted as well. And so from April 18th, 2022 to October 13th, 2022, I was monitoring what was going on, listening to subject matter experts and doctors who were deplatformed, censored, and the death count, the injury count was increasing. So nearly 6 months later, I revisited the issue. There were 1.25 million reports filed in April of that year. There were 1.43 million reports filed with the Vaccine Adverse Event Reporting, or VAERS, in October of that year. And there were 31,330 deaths. That's an uptick of almost, well, more than 4,300 people. I noted, check this out. In 2003, there was a smallpox vaccine program for healthcare workers. That program was halted just after 2 deaths. In April of 2022, there were more than 26,000 deaths, 26,976 to be precise. In October of 2022, there were more than 31,000 deaths, or 31,330 deaths. And the band kept playing on, but yet in 2003, the smallpox vaccine program for healthcare workers was stopped after 2 people died. And people are still dying from the COVID-19 vaccines.
Gotta have your vaxes, though. Gotta have your vaccines, folks.
Exactly. So the response, I never got a response from my deputy director then, but I did get a response from my media team supervisor. And basically, he responded on October 20th, just about, a week later. He said that my COVID-19 vaccines concerns are, quote, in conflict with the department's stance and research findings on vaccination, close quote. He invited me to learn about CDPH's official position. He sent me one of those intranet links. He also expressed, quote, concern that my personal research efforts may be a misuse of both state, time, and equipment. Essentially, VZ and your audience, that was a veiled threat.
Oh, yes, very clearly. I speak leftist. I'm known to speak leftist. And if I can, I'd like to translate, because the underlying subtext of that was Ron Owens, author of Muzzled Truth. Ron, stay in your lane.
Exactly. So at that time, I checked with the Office of Civil Rights to see whether I should file a complaint against my superiors. I decided against it because I didn't want to come across like I'm an angry black man, angry with management.
Yeah, because you come across as so offensive.
Exactly. And I didn't want it to make it about the messenger, BZ. It was about the message. It's not about me. And it's not about my personal belief. That's just what they were saying too. This was my personal belief. So it's my personal belief for Javier Becerra to say we know these vaccines are killing people. It's my personal belief to tell them that there were more than 30,000 in October of 2022 that had died from the vaccines. That's my personal belief? No. So anyway, I decided, after checking with the Office of Civil Rights, after praying about it, talking to my family about it, I decided, no, I'm not going to make it about the messenger. So months later, in August of 2023, we had a staff meeting. California Globe, I don't know if you've heard of that online publication.
Yes.
Katie Grimes, I believe she's the senior editor, executive editor.
No, Katie. I have met her any number of times. Talk about a wonderful muckrakeress.
Well,
she's glorious.
She was the only one that was asking tough questions. That was during the whole COVID era. And so we received a media request from one of her reporters, and they were asking about adverse events from the COVID-19 vaccine. And we were talking about it, doing a virtual staff meeting. And so in that staff meeting, there were several, there was the deputy director, the assistant deputy director, the media team supervisor, and there were about 10 or 11 other of my colleagues. And I just could not remain silent. I just had to say something. So I tried to tell everybody what Javier Becerra said. We know these vaccines are killing people. I was messing up on the quote because it was, I didn't really have it memorized. It was a stressful period. And my deputy director was telling me to be quiet. We've already resolved this. Be quiet. She didn't want me to share this information with her subordinates, my colleagues, because probably I would be poisoning the well. It would cause them to question whether the vaccines are safe and effective, and she did not want them to know that, and I knew that. In the Black community, we call it talking smack. When you're like in a verbal confrontation, you just talk smack. You just keep talking. They keep talking. So I just kept talking. And I remember saying, this is on the White House's official YouTube channel. I wanted my colleagues to know, my co-workers to know, I'm not mixing this up. I'm just sharing what's already out there. So when my deputy director saw that I wasn't going to shut up, she basically told the media team supervisor to shut down the call, shut it down. And I was talking in mid-sentence and the call was shut down. So I got an email, and then I got a second email, which was a corrective memorandum, which basically said, stop sharing your personal beliefs. You need to be more kind. It was kind of like one of those didactic, finger-waggling, behave yourself,
Stay in your lane,
Stay
mister.
in your lane. You're not a doctor, So at that point in time, BZ, I knew that it was time for me to retire. I tried to work within the system between October of 2021 and September of 2023. I knew that I wasn't going to shut up because one of the terms of the counseling memorandum was I was supposed to behave myself for an entire year. And if I behave myself, I could write and petition to have that particular correct counseling memorandum removed from my personnel file. I knew that I wasn't going to be quiet. I knew that they're set me up for disciplinary action or to probably garnish my wages. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And plus, more importantly, 40 million Californians needed to know what I knew. And if I had to stay there, I would have been complicit with allegedly committed crimes against humanity. So I announced my retirement, came out as a whistleblower, wrote Muzzled Truth, established the muzzledtruth.com website. People can read the emails back and forth by my management regarding ivermectin, regarding the COVID-19 vaccines are killing people narrative. They can read all that for themselves. I don't include the specific names of the players in Muzzled Truth, but those particular names are in the emails that you can see. This is a 62-page PDF that people can read for themselves in that email. And so I spoke before small groups. I've been interviewed several times, but I felt led of the Lord that I have to do more. So I went to my board of supervisors in Sacramento County, and on my Muzzled Truth 1 X page, I'm standing at the rostrum in Sacramento County Board of Supervisors, and behind me there's some people standing up with supporting me in prayer and standing up in solidarity. And that was the very first time that I stood before any Board of Supervisors to share this information, particularly the COVID-19 vaccines are killing people, quote from Javier Becerra, who, by the way, is running for California governor. Go figure.
Yes, imagine that.
Yeah. So since then, I have written all 58 county board of supervisors in July of 2024 sent out 58 separate emails and a 5-page PDF addressed to each county. And I sent all that out in July of 2024. And I'm thinking, you know what? I need to follow up that written notification by going from county to county. So if you go to my muzzledtruth.com website, people will see me sitting on a Can-Am Spider motorcycle, a really cool bike. So I'm riding around California on Tuesdays, and I've gone to 51 county board of supervisors out of 58, and I've got 7 more counties to go. And those 7 counties left that I have to go are Inyo County, Imperial County, Los Angeles, San Bernardino, Orange, Riverside, San Diego. So those are the 7 counties that I have left. And when I go to each of those counties, I probably would have been the only Californian in the state's 175-year storied history to travel to and speak before every county board of supervisor in the state.
Ron, there's a about a 2-minute video that I'd like to play with your permission. And it indicates Greg Glazer of Children's HD talking to you. So I'd like to put this up and then play it for everybody.
All right.
Yes. The data shows the COVID vaccines injure more people than they potentially help. This has been confirmed by multiple independent professionals, and it is consistent with the findings of the book by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Brian Hooker called Vax Unvax, where we know from multiple studies all over the world, the unvaccinated are the healthiest people in our societies. We should be encouraging health.
Mm-hmm. Now we've got, I've got a couple of ladies who've been speaking before board of supervisors with me. Judy Threet, she's gone to 33 counties. Danny Dries has speaking before the Butte County Board of Supervisors and Plumas County Board of Supervisors for how many years? Okay, so what's yours? If you were standing before Butte County or speaking at Plumas County, and I spoke to their chair just last, well, their board of supervisors just last week. What is your second point? Because they're basically, they're all in, you know, their county health officer saying this is safe and effective, you know?
I would give them an analogy. I would say that if in Butte County, you found a product, a baby formula product on the shelf, and then you observed that mothers who use that baby formula product, that they experienced a 5,000% increase in a harm, you would investigate that, right, Butte County? Oh yeah, yes, of course we would investigate. Okay, good. Then why won't you do it with a vaccine? Why?
So let me stop it right there. Ron Owens. So why won't they do it with a vaccine? Clearly it's cowardice, but it's cowardice pushed by what, do you think? Is it money, big pharma, or is it the hive mindset that you cannot go against established, and I'll be blunt, leftist traditions, the likes of which you clearly indicated at the very beginning of the show that evil is involved in that stuff?
You took the words out of my mouth, BZ. As I start off by saying we're in a spiritual war. I believe it's all of the above, as you stated, but Paul, in Galatians 5, he lists the 17 works of the flesh, and one of them is witchcraft. And the Greek word for witchcraft or sorcery is pharmakia, pharmacy, big pharma. So yes, there's a hive mind component here. Yes, this is a money maker, but ultimately this is a spiritual war against good and evil, against God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, against Satan, demons, and devils. And those who are carrying out the devil's works. This is a spiritual war, and it's a spiritual war that is being played out here. And because it is a spiritual war, because people are making money, because there is a hive mind, and there are those people who do believe it's safe and effective. Everything is interrelated with trying to tear down this spiritual stronghold. So this spiritual stronghold can be torn down in prayer, probably fasting and praying, and I don't fast that much, I should. But this spiritual stronghold can also be torn down by informing people along the way. And yes, I'm going from county to county along with Julie Threet, Butte County resident. You might want to interview her if you're looking for someone else to interview along the same topic. But not only are we providing written notification, in-person appearance, that's part of the documentation process. So an attorney can basically hold these officials accountable, but we're informing people who happen to be in the board chambers that day, people who are watching live, people who are watching on a replay, people who are running into, you know what, we don't know. Somebody could have been thinking about taking the vaccine and they heard Julie's comment, my comment, saw a video, and they changed their mind. So we're informing local people along the way, because the feds, agencies have failed us, state agencies, state departments have failed us, mainstream media, social media has censored and has gaslit people. So I'm just riding my motorcycle all over California. You know, I'm not saying that the British are coming, you know.
But they've already arrived.
But yes, that's true. Yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's answering your question. It's the hive mind. It's the moneymaker. It's a spiritual war as well.
Okay, we're going to have to take off here pretty soon. We've almost run through the entire 2 hours. And
Wow.
Ron F. Owens Jr., thank you so kindly for being here. But I want to read from this one sentence from your book, Muzzled Truth. This is the very first sentence in Afterword. And after I read this, I'd like you to summarize what you think is important here.
Okay.
The very first sentence in Afterword. This is the crux of the biscuit. It's imperative to review what federal, state, and local government officials did to us during the COVID-19 pandemic so that we will never forget. That's the summary, folks, right here. So Ronald F. Owens Jr., you have the final say, sir, for tonight.
Well, because if we don't remember and remind, it will be forgotten. Matter of fact, this has been underreported. You talked about the hospital protocols. That hasn't been really, a matter of fact, Senator Ron Johnson said in an interview with Alex Meyer, the hospitals were killing field. People are being injured and died from the COVID-19 vaccines, and it's been underreported. We have people who have suddenly dropped dead. Dr. Peter McCullough said in Elk Grove, California last November that Deion Sanders, that very talented athlete who's now the football coach of the Colorado Buffaloes football team, Dr. McCullough said he's vaccine injured. A lot of people haven't felt the same, but they haven't made that connection. And if we tell the story, it will be completely forgotten, and they might try to do it again.
Folks, I have but one comment, 2 comments. Okay, maybe 3. My grand thanks to Ron Owens for donating his time tonight. That's imperative. That's number 1. Number 2, here's a stat for you. And I'm not making this up because I don't have to. You know, I can read just like Ron can read. people in the state of California didn't want Ron to read, but he's a thinking individual who utilizes critical thinking. I want to point this out. Medical errors are estimated to cause between 210,000 and 440,000 deaths annually in the U.S., making them the third leading cause of death after heart disease and cancer. And you know what the medical field and the medical community calls them, those deaths? You're a medical misadventure. And therein lies the cautionary tale, folks. Again, Ronald F. Owens Jr. Do you have any places, websites, etc., that you would care to refer people tonight?
Yes, muzzledtruth.com. There's a whole bunch of documents there, information that shares more of my story. I'd be appreciative if you do purchase Muzzled Truth. The physical book is available on Target, Walmart, and Amazon. And the audiobook, you can buy the audiobook read by yours truly.
Nice.
You can buy it from Apple as well as on Audible. I was listening to one of the chapters, matter of fact, earlier this evening, and my cat, Ruth, who was more than 15 years old, I had to put her to sleep last month. She meowed in the background while I was reading Muzzled Truth, a section. And the engineer didn't, remove that particular meow, but I'm glad the engineer didn't, because hearing her meow touched my heart. But she stuck with me while I was dealing with what I was dealing with at CDPH. So yes, muzzledtruth.com is my Muzzled Truth website, and ronaldfowensjr.com is my website for my 5 Bible-based books. And I have rewritten about 10% of the Bible in newspaper format, which you guys, as a gift to you, can download any of those 7 PDFs on Moses and the Exodus, Joshua and the Jericho conquest, Gideon, Samson, the entire book of 1 Samuel, Jonah, and a 48-page, 125 story on the life of Jesus Christ, all in newspaper format.
Wow. Okay. As I customarily say about people who have come here and really haven't done anything with their lives, Ronald F. Owens Jr., obviously a serious underachiever in his life and hasn't done a darn thing. And thank you for wasting your time tonight on someone as slinkishly subversive as myself. So thank you for your time, sir. Hey, by the way, if you ever decide that you're going to print another book, or perhaps an update, or maybe another update in terms of what you've been doing recently towards the end of providing more information about Wuhan 19, I would love to have you back on the show.
Well, I would definitely come back. And I thank you for Lonnie Poindexter. I want to give him a shout out for connecting us. I appreciate it.
Is a super cool dude. Thank you, Ronald F. Owens Jr., author of Muzzled Truth. Thank you, sir, for tonight. Anyway, I'm BZ. It's time for me to go. Thanks, everyone, for listening, for watching and listening later on in podcast. I appreciate the time that you spend here late at night. Even you loving trolls who hate us, despise us, but you still show up. Go figure. Everybody, God bless. Take care. Be safe. Good night.